She taught in the East End of London, where school statuaries contained hammers and knuckle dusters, and in Nottingham, where the local dialect was a foreign language. We were married. After we were married, she was offered a school education inspector's position, which involved going to various schools, assessing their education programs, writing reports, and then making recommendations. She was appalled by some of these standards and was tireless in striving to get them improved. She then took a position at Masada College Jewish School and soon became a preschool director and sat on the board. No mean feat for a Gentile. She was always interested in the principles of early intervention and did a second degree part-time at Charles Sturt University and graduated with a Bachelor of Education and a graduate diploma in early intervention, and was immediately offered a research grant at the uni, but decided that there was an enormous need in the local area to help children that were struggling at school. We set up a classroom at home, and children used to come before and after school, and some were even taken out of school to attend. Cherie's philosophy was that there was always a way to get through to a child. A typical example was that some years before I had constructed a flying fox over the swimming pool. And students having problems with Pythagoras were told to bring their swimmers next week. The rope became the hypotenuse, the ladder the vertical, and the pull the horizontal. Eureka, never forgotten. Some children were gifted and talented that came to be challenged as the schools were failing to keep their interest. She gained an award from New South Wales Uni for Outstanding Teacher of Academically Gifted Students. Cherie loved the challenge that children brought, but this came to an abrupt end 10 years ago with the cancer diagnosis. The cancer was one of the most aggressive, and after a 9-hour operation, the prognosis was at 18 months. Chemo treatment then became a regular activity. She broke all the records and has rewritten the chemo textbooks and redrawn the bell curve for ovarian cancer survival. She never once said why me, and always taught the students that shit happens, deal with it. I would like to thank at this point I would like to thank all the medical staff that have looked after Cherie, particularly Dr. Gay Casper, who spent 9 hours operating and who has become a very special friend. Professor David Bell and Polly in the oncology ward, who worked their magic for so many years, and the last 2 weeks Professor Richard Chai, who was so wonderful in his palliative care. Over the last few years, Richard has been part of Cantu, raising money for cancer research, and Cherie became a passionate supporter. She'd been a regular speaker at the training sessions, and it was always imperative that she'd be there at the finish line to cheer the participants home, no matter how ill she felt. She had so much admiration for the Cantu philosophy of people giving up their time to get fit and get sponsors to raise money for cancer research. Cherie loved life, was kind to everyone, and only saw the good in people. I never heard her say a bad word about anyone. Cherie, I love you very, very much, and thank you for giving me the honour of being your husband.
There's only one story to tell. It's one that happened in the early hours of Sunday morning. And it's pretty much the last thing that my mum did. And it encapsulates her perfectly. And it's 3 a.m, 3 hours before Mum passes away, and she can only move the fingers on her hand. She wakes up my father and starts to give instructions to move the photographs around on the wall opposite her bed. She can only move a couple of fingers, but they've been married for 40 years, so he gets what she's saying. The photos have to be arranged in a certain way, and the only way she can do it is by moving her fingers. The photos of all the things that are important to her, and at the end, she gives Dad a little thumbs up. We were left with the arrangement of the photos and what was important to her, and that she even made the most of her last hours. Thank you, Mum, for being my mum.
Cherie believed in miracles. She was always looking for life to be extended, beyond the ordinary, beyond the mundane and normal and expected. Cherie wasn't content with average. She wanted herself and us to reach a little further, to see a little deeper, and to work a little harder for something excellent. Sometimes she could sense that we were easing off and coasting. And because teaching was not only her life's calling and her passionate gift, but an expression of her love and her faith in us, sometimes she had to look for ways to let us know how we could grow next. A few days before she died, during the last conversation that I had with her, I told her that our pastoral carers had met that morning and they had been thinking about her. She immediately replied, "Well, I hope that's not all you were doing," by which she meant that thinking really wasn't enough and we should have been praying. The euphemisms and formulas we used to avoid sounding too religious didn't work for Cherie. She wanted it to be clear and plain that along with David and her family, God was foundational to her life. And from those who surrounded her, from the prayers of the many people she knew were praying for her, she was continuously drawing strength and energy and peace. Cherie is deeply connected to an amazing number and diversity of people. And with every one of us, she delighted in being influential. She was a motivator. She knew what we needed to hear or to see to bring out the best in us and to keep us moving. With David and her family, with her children and her friends, doctors, medical professionals of all kinds, ministers, community leaders, everyone, even including, I have no doubt, even including God. Cherie laid out clearly and plainly what she wanted and needed, and she let us know what it was she wanted us to do. But then she trusted us to rise up to her standards, and she was always utterly sure that life and people are good, that they are worth believing in, even during patches of pain and shadow. When Cherie was having chemotherapy, she surfed the cycles of her treatment, arranging dates and conversations for days when the Dexies gave her energy and strength, and then time for reading and enjoying the view from the terrace at Jackson's Landing or Gerard on days when something